Hey rock stars, Reggie Dawson here, your host of the Being on Stage podcast. Welcome back. Thank you so much for tuning in. You know, I tend to get my ideas and my inspiration for these podcast episodes from some pretty interesting places. You know, sometimes it's a song or a quote, kind of standard there. Sometimes it's from a movie, a TV show. Sometimes it's from a book I read or from something I heard on the news, and it's all sorts of different places. Today, a little bit of a different place. Today, this podcast is brought to you by the English language. Grammar, to be more specific. I always try to do some type of analogy, and I gotta say, originally the idea for this episode, so there's a bit of a story, and I'll get into it. So before I do, listen again. I'm Reggie Dawson. I'm a stage performance coach. I help performers elevate their performance, take it to the next level, and just, get moving in their careers towards that dream, that vision that they have, that you have in your head of what you want to be and where you want to be and who you want to be. I just help get you there, whether it be through this podcast, through one-on-one coaching, through trainings. There are all sorts of different stuff I do. I'm here to help get you there. And that's what I do. So I've been mulling on this for a little while. So it's probably been about a week ago. I really started to listen to this song, "Whatever It Takes" by Imagine Dragons, and I really like this song. It has a good message. I mean, based on just the title of the song, you can tell it's pretty much about doing whatever it takes. And one of the lines in the song is, I'm an apostrophe. I'm just a symbol to remind you that there's more to see. Okay? And so that spawned this whole idea about doing a podcast episode specifically around an apostrophe. And as I dug a little deeper, I made the mistake of thinking the apostrophe is the big movement that's going on now. You see a bunch of people getting tattoos, and apparently, and I'll own that. I got my grammar punctuation marks confused. That's a semicolon. That's a big movement going on now. A lot of people are getting semicolon tattoos, and that symbolizes that, something has happened and now something new has come and something new is happening. It's a symbol of a turning point in someone's life. They get a tattoo of a semicolon to represent that. And so when I realized that I got those two confused, I'm like, well, there's got to be other punctuation marks that I can talk about performing around? Of course there is. Why wouldn't I turn punctuation into a podcast about improving your performance and moving forward in your career? That's just who I am. And honestly, listen, if you don't know by now, that really is who I am. I take different analogies and like I was saying earlier, different areas that I get my inspiration from for a podcast to kind of drill a point home and help you realize certain things and motivate you and hopefully inspire you and boost your confidence as you go out on stage and crush it for your audience. So we'll start with the apostrophe. There's actually a few grammatical punctuation marks we're going to discuss today, kids. The first is the apostrophe, as I mentioned, in the Imagine Dragons song, "Whatever It Takes," that spawned this whole idea for this podcast. He mentions that he's an apostrophe, and that's a symbol to remind you that there's more to see. And I'm sorry for rhyming. That's the lyrics of the song. I'm not apologizing for rhyming. Rhyming is awesome. There's not a word that rhymes with awesome. Otherwise, I would rhyme awesome with possum, but that doesn't work in the context of this podcast. Man, there's so much wrong with me. So an apostrophe, I went and I looked it up. I'm going to help you out. An apostrophe is that little mark that you put in a word. It symbolizes a contraction. I think that's what it's called, a contraction. In the English language, not in a pregnant woman. But like can't or don't, it's, DON apostrophe T. Or haven't, HAVEN apostrophe T. It symbolizes really that where there was once two words, there's now only one word, and it's kind of a shortened. It's the way we shorten things here in America with our English language, and I don't know if this is proper English, but I'm just going with what I've learned as a child. So the apostrophe symbolizing the omission of some letters, that that's you. When you get out on that stage and you're putting together your performance, there's going to be things that you just can't communicate, but there's also things that you should keep to yourself. And I know I get on my soapbox and I talk about being authentic and leaving it all out on stage, but there should be some mystery to it. There should be some curiosity left at the end of the show. You can't leave absolutely everything and tell absolutely everything while you're on stage. There should be some mystery. It keeps them coming back. It keeps them interested. And that's your apostrophe. That's you going out there and I don't mean to use the words can't and don't, and I'm talking about how much you can and you do. Oh, man, this is a great episode so far, isn't it? Tune into the end. It gets so much better. I promise. So your apostrophe is that something more that is going to pull them back in, So apostrophe. Things that you have left out that will keep them coming back, keep them digging for more. Now, I mentioned that I got the apostrophe confused with the semicolon. And I don't know how, I do know how, because they do have something in common. Okay, so the apostrophe, symbolizes letters missing where two words became one. Something's missing, something's not there, something you can't quite see. A semicolon is connecting two thoughts or two ideas. Seemingly separate, but they do have a shared thread, if you will. That's why it's not a period, it's a semicolon. And the semicolon is like the comma on the bottom and then the dot above it. Semicolon, it's like a colon, but it's a semicolon. Oh, all right, we're going to keep it together, I promise. I promise we're going to keep it together. I'm saying I promise a lot. So the semicolon movement has come about because, and I don't know where it started, and I have not done my research on this, but the semicolon came about, and I know a couple people that have gotten the tattoos because people needed something to feel like they had permission to move past something that had happened in the past. And as performers, I feel like we just have a bunch of semicolons in our life. There's going to be things that are going to happen, whether it be in your personal or your professional life, that is just going to seemingly slow you down and put a barrier in front of you. But then you're going to break through it and you're going to be onto something new. And that's your semicolon. So I guess what I'm trying to say is if you're in that point of your performing, or if you come to that point in your career that it seems like there's a barrier and there's no way to move forward, it's not a wall. That's your semicolon. That's your turning point to where you're going to break through. You're going to move on to something new. You just haven't done it yet. But you will. You 100% will. Okay, so since I decided that, the apostrophe means you have to leave some mystery, and the semicolon means that you're going to crush through any barrier that comes up against you, I figured let's go find more punctuation marks that are underestimated, underappreciated, and I can use to talk about performing, because I'm a geek like that. I'm that guy that's going to go find out a punctuation mark that I can flip into an analogy to make a point about motivating and inspiring you to move forward in your career. That's just who I am. I can't change it. So I went out and I found the ellipsis. Okay. Yeah, the ellipsis. So the ellipsis is the three little dots, ... You've seen it on, Twitter posts, I'm sure, Facebook, Instagram. You've seen it on social media posts, we'll generalize. I'm sure you've read it in books, and it symbolizes, so what the ellipsis does is it symbolizes an omission from speech or writing of words that are superfluous or unneeded, unnecessary, to be able to understand what you're trying to do or what you're trying to say. So your ellipsis as a performer, okay. So there's going to be things that are going to happen that truthfully, they have no value in the long term. Absolutely not. And it's little things too. It's little drama BS with some people that are going to get in your way and try to crush you. It's those little arguments with other performers. It's those people popping up trying to tell you you're not good enough. It's those nights that just seem like they're never going to end because you already feel like the performance is not going the way it's supposed to go. All those little things, long term, not going to matter. Not going to matter one stinking bit. That is your ellipsis. Your ... So in the English language, in grammar, the ellipsis is used to indicate things that aren't needed. Like, for example, if you were writing a novel, and in the novel you're counting down from 10 to 1, you are not going to write 10, 9, 8, 6, No, I can't even speak it that much. You're going to write 10, 9, 8, ... 3, 2, 1. That's the ... You don't need 7, 6, 5, 4 to understand that countdown went from 10 to 1. Okay? So in your life as a performer, you don't need to keep track of all those little dramatic fights and spats and all those little tiny moments that tried to hold you down and kick you down and hold you back. You don't need to keep those around. You don't need to keep track of those. Those are not going to matter in the long run. That's going to be your ... It's going to be, this was an amazing performance, ... This was an amazing performance, ... This was an amazing performance. Those ... those are the performances that don't even matter. Those are the nights and the moments that not going to matter in 5-10 years. You might even remember it in 1 year, to be quite honest with you. So that brings me to my final and quite possibly my favorite punctuation mark. And I couldn't dedicate an episode of the podcast to grammar and punctuation without God. This podcast is dedicated to grammar and punctuation. Yep, that's me. Without mentioning the exclamation point. So the exclamation point is an amazing punctuation mark. Okay, punctuation mark, exclamation. It indicates exclamation. Oh, an exclamation point indicates exclamation. So what is it? So it indicates high feelings, high volume, or showing emphasis. So how does this translate to a performer? Where might we as performers need to indicate emphasis? Ding, 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 ding. You got it. On stage, every single time. Your performances are little exclamation points all over your life. That's the emphasis. And even listen, even when you're on stage, not every moment is going to be wow, boom, zing, pop. Not every moment's going to be crazy. Not every moment's going to be an exclamation point. But you need to have those moments in your show that are exclamation points. You need to have those moments that are emphasized for your audience, and for not just for your audience, but for yourself as well. You need to emphasize certain areas of your show, your climax being one of them. A lot of times you have to break up your show into depending on how long you're on stage. You're on stage for a half an hour. You probably want to come out with an exclamation point. Maybe like another 5-10 minutes later, another exclamation point, and end with an exclamation point. And then you got a couple of ... dots in the middle of there, add an apostrophe and a semicolon, and boom, we got this. So listen, this has been a wild ride, and I told myself I was going to do a grammar and punctuation podcast, and I kind of kicked around, kind of put it off for a little bit, but I finally got it out. So if this has not completely scared you off, 2 things you can do. 1, you can hit the subscribe button, leave a rating and a comment on this podcast. And 2, if this has inspired you and this has made you want to push yourself a little further, let's work together and get on building your dreams. So hit me up on my calendar. You can go to beingonstage.com/calendar. Again, that's beingonstage.com/calendar. Pick a date, pick a time, put in your name and email. I'll call you and we'll get it going. We will build your semicolon, build your exclamation points, and all the other ... dots that came before won't even matter, baby, because you're an apostrophe. Okay, I think I got them all in there. Signing off, Read You Being On Stage podcast, and you keep on shining.